that the struggle goes today along the lines of the developed West, where there is no longer working class, as some of my leftist friends are telling me. The West is totally corrupted. It's all what Lenin called workers' aristocracy, and our only hope are third world immigrants, and so on and so on. I respectfully disagree with this, because as David Harvey, my Marxist American friend, the ultimate economist today, told me, first, do you know in the 2008 crisis, what enormous destruction this crisis caused in small, half-abandoned American cities, and so on and so on. And the left ignored that chance, and then, paradoxically, Trump got those votes. The second thing, I'm not saying we should directly export our values to the third world, our notion of human rights, and so on and so on. I agree with you here. But when you mention that Hutus, nonetheless, they are the hardline Islamists, not LGBT, but aren't here they an example of something that worries me? You probably must know what is going now, not only in Uganda, but also in some other African countries. They are radicalizing the legislation against gay people, homosexuality, justifying it in the terms of resisting Western colonialism. In Uganda, I followed it closely. They have now a new law where if you are caught in homosexual act, it can be either life imprisonment or death penalty. And I did something that not many journalists did. I went to look at their newspapers. It was all about that's our resistance to colonialism. So there is a limit here for me in the sense of I'm afraid to draw this conclusion. The main thing is to fight against Western capitalism. So let's forget about how they treat women and so on. No, I'm not ready to do this.
Let's go to a Q&A, but after this talk,
do you think that what Hutus are doing there has a universal potential in the sense that workers in the West or even in other third world countries will say, oh my God, aren't they really doing something that we should have been doing, interrupting the flow and so on and so on? I am just skeptical there. I'm here a Hegelian. Hegel is not a stupid idealist who thinks, oh, somehow the good side will always win. No, Hegel, that's why I'm a Hegelian today, is always a guy who, when a good idea comes, his question is, how can things go wrong with even the best, idea? And here, again, my opposition to Hutus is not moral. I even had a sympathy, so that I will hopefully convince you that I'm not bluffing. I even had a sympathy with Somali pirates, you know. The idea was, oh, Islamist fanatics robbing ships there. Yeah, but what people, most of the people, didn't mention is that what drove the Somalis to such a despair. Big international countries with their fishing, gigantic fishing, they depleted the sea there. They totally ruined the way they got most of the food. And it was just a very desperate act to try to begin to attack. But now I will strike back, if I may, at this level with, you know, what was a singular, most depressive experience that I had in the last year. The last summer at where I work, at Birkbeck School, we had two ladies, wonderful ladies, my God, this sounds male chauvinist, I know, from South Africa, ANC, old fighters, top. And I asked one of these ladies, listen, let's be frank. I read all the bullshit about South Africa, a failed state, and so on, like tell me, what should be my reply to people who are well-meaning, they are not openly racist, but nonetheless see this. And she told me very honestly something that almost made me cry. She told me, you know what is now among the poor blacks in South Africa, more and more the predominant experience of life? It made me cry, the nostalgia for apartheid. Because she told me, listen, the standard of living for black majority is no better than under apartheid, maybe in some parts with new unemployment even worse, while South Africa was a police state, which nonetheless meant it was some basic safety. Now, it's violence. All that really happened in South Africa is that the old white ruling class is joined by a new black ruling class. And you see, these are, for me, the tragedy of Africa. Because then, of course, you feed the white liberals who they are proud to say, look, give me one example where blacks took over and they didn't screw up the economy and so on. I'm very realist here. The same, another provocation to you. Fuck them. You know what's also my problem? Don't misunderstand me. When I criticize, for many people in a too brutal way, cancel culture and all that, my point is not they are too radical. No, their radicalism is for me a fake one. For example, as a Hegelian, here enters the notion of concrete universality. I only think when you have an ideological trend, it's crucial to identify what concrete image of or case, how should I put it, exemplifies this. You know, for example, you remember John Major. But okay, what I wanted to say is that they admitted social crisis, but it was incredible operation, purely symbolic, easy to understand for a Lacanian. Maybe if you are some of you old enough here, they elevated a single unemployed mother into the symbol of all evil.